everyone's trying to keep a positive attitude, and that this will all eventually subside, and there'll be better days. And so yeah, I've been lucky. The weather's been beautiful. Today's a little bit of an overcast, but I'm not complaining. It makes it easy to be stuck inside working.
Yeah, today it's like 73 and sunny here in Portland, so we're like getting out on the deck when we can. And
nice.
So yeah, well, I think everybody's kind of joining, so we'll go ahead and start. So welcome everybody to Gray's featured speaker series. It's part of our virtual design expo. I'm Lauren Mang, digital editor of Gray magazine, and we launched this digital symposium about 3 weeks ago, kind of with the hope of building community and relationships within the design industry during this pandemic, and hopefully providing a little bit of a space as well. So today we are chatting with Aleem Kassam, the principal and interior designer at Kalu Interior. And today's talk is extra special because we have Phyllis Lui, the partner and interior designer at Kalu, joining us right after Aleem's chat. So he's going to be answering our lightning round 5 questions after his interview, and then Phyllis is going to hop on and answer her own as well. So make sure you stay tuned to that.
Cool.
So thanks again, everyone, for being part of this live stream. If you have any questions for Aleem as we go along, just type them in and we will try to answer them as we go through. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course. I'm so glad to be here, and thank you so much to Gray Magazine for having myself and Phyllis involved. And also, yeah, it's just an amazing thing that you guys are doing. So it's a great way to stay connected, especially in our industry. Yeah, again, thank you for having us in Kalu Interiors.
Yeah, absolutely. So I interviewed you ahead of your IDF talk in 2019. And one of the things that you said really resonated with me. You discussed how we kind of see, a successful person at the beginning and the end of their journey, and we don't often see the, the middle part, which is kind of the obstacles and the struggles and the pitfalls that they may have. So now that you and Phyllis have launched such a successful business, what were some of the struggles and the obstacles that you might have gone through that you might be able to share with us now?
Yeah, for sure. Do we have an hour at least?
Sure.
Well, I think anyone, especially entering the interior design field, it is one of those industries where there's no rule book. There's no guidebook as to which way you enter the industry, whether you're going to be working for another design firm, whether you want to open your own firm. Are you going to be a decorator, a designer? Are you going to work consultation? Are you doing renovations, new builds? There's just so many streams when entering the industry. And I think a lot of people that enter the design industry, and interior design in particular, like Phyllis and myself, you kind of find yourself a little bit along the way. And it's one of those things that you kind of have to go knees deep in to kind of figure out what you love and what you don't love, and kind of cater it to make it your own. So when we decided to start Kalu Interiors over like 12 years ago, it's been a really long time. Phyllis and I, first kind of started out not being green. We knew that we needed our own individual experiences to garner not only education, but also technical abilities, and even important things like establishing client relationships, sourcing, dealing with trades. So again, kind of taking on that mindset, we kind of delved into a lot of different areas of the field. I guess the largest struggle at the beginning, even though we knew that Kalu was kind of our end goal, our target to make it a successful design firm and studio, we wanted to kind of go garner these experiences from other design firms, from other sources and suppliers. Phyllis went her route with working with a couple very well-known design firms in Vancouver. I decided to continue my education out in Chicago. So right away, the largest obstacle was obviously working with one another and collaborating, but from a distance, because again, I was in Chicago and Phyllis was back here in Vancouver. So so the distance definitely made a challenge for us. But when I decided to come back to Vancouver, again, it was just rolling with the punches, trying to determine who we were as designers, as individuals, what type of projects we wanted. Again, starting out, you're always trying to seek out those projects, and you may not have, pick of the litter. You kind of take what you can and grow your business. And obviously look back and, close your eyes a little bit. And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I took that. But you do what you got to do to get your feet into the industry. So, so, I mean, there were certainly those types of challenges, and trying to determine you know, again, where we wanted to be, how we could both maintain our own individuality, but on a collaborative platform through the design firm. So even though that's been kind of the greatest challenge, I think it's also been our greatest success. So yeah.
Yeah, I know starting off as a young freelance writer, I edited dental websites.
Okay.
So I know a lot about teeth that.
Hey, you never know when you're going to need to know that knowledge sometime down the road,
right? So you were named one of Canada's best dressed a few years ago. And I will say that your style is truly impeccable, honestly. When you sent that headset over with your green suit on, I was like, oh, it's to die for. So how are you managing your style given that everybody's wearing sweatpants and pajamas all day? You know, what are you doing to keep it up?
It's a fashion apocalypse is the best way to describe it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely in my sweats way more. I'm balancing my time between home and here in our office. Everyone's working remotely, so I'm here by myself, and it's great. I get a lot done, but I still try to get myself together a little bit in order to just kind of get in that right mindset and kind of put on my business hat. And yeah, so as far as the fashion goes, yes, it's deteriorated to say the least, but I'm still making do. We do, my partner and I do hikes typically out in remote areas of BC over the weekend. So I try my what I call it, I guess, my couture hiking outfits, and then I get some of my Instagram stories in that way. But yeah, it's kind of a welcome respite, I have to say. It's nice not to have to fully put myself together on a daily basis, and I think most people feel that way. So it's take the silver lining is what I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you say that there's a connection between your personal fashion sense and the way that you approach your interior designs?
Yeah, it's funny because I actually get that question asked of me a lot. And I think one of the things that people would notice if they look at the type of projects that both Phyllis and I do for our clients and at Kalu Interiors and versus the way that we portray ourselves. And I think that I definitely have a little bit of an ostentatious style. It can be out there sometimes. But fashion and design, though, obviously they coincide and they refer to one another and they influence one another. I think one of the things that I've always been cognitive of and trying to be careful with is with my personal style and fashion, that's constantly evolving. And I change it pretty often. I mean, you can see I'm typically a shaven blonde head, but now I have this black muff on my head. I've taken the opportunity to grow it out. Even though I do cut and color my own hair, people may not know. Yeah.
Fun fact, everyone.
But yeah, for our clients and our projects and the design, I always try to take a very understated palette and a hand to these projects because I never want a client's development to go out of style next year. You know, one of the things that we want to provide to our clientele basis is longevity, something that's going to be classic and last throughout the years and be able to grow with that person or that couple or that family. And the way that I like to treat fashion in interiors and spaces is through personal styling. So again, in accessories and art, in rugs and pillows, those are the items that you should really be interjecting your personality in because those are the things that you can actually change and evolve with you in your space over the years. Because there'd be nothing worse than having to rip out like this, you know, trend focused tile a year later and, you know, you loved it that day and you hate it the next year. So yeah, don't do a ton of color when it comes to base finishes and pieces. Again, just for longevity and for us to have that.
Yeah. So that kind of brings me to my next question is I find the job of interior designers so fascinating in that they often have to push people beyond their comfort zones when it comes to design. And how do you really walk that line with your clients, you know, encouraging them to try something different within their spaces and then to trust you if they might be hesitant about something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always joke, I say I'm 90% psychologist and 10% designer. So like, yeah, when it comes to design and handling clients and these types of situations, I think the biggest mistake that a lot of designers make is not listening to their clients. A lot of the times, even if we ask them to send us concept images or they don't really know what they want and they say, you know, we love what you do, just make it beautiful. You kind of have to take small social and visual cues along the way to kind of garner what they're willing to do and what they would love. Because at the end of the day, we're designing these spaces and these homes for these people. And by no means are we trying to instill our personal style upon their lifestyle, because we want those spaces in their homes to reflect who they are as individuals. But a lot of the times, absolutely, clients, they may not have a complete full package personal style. They may like certain elements. They may have cool pieces from their travels that we can certainly incorporate. But definitely, again, just really listening to our clients and figuring out what risks they are willing to take and which ones they're not. And again, taking the previous approach that I said in maintaining kind of a more timeless, neutral palette in the base of the home when it comes to your bulk finishes, your flooring, your wall colors, tiles, your countertops. It allows for more room and flexibility to allow clients to take more risk when it comes to the soft furnishings and other aspects of the design. But certainly we always push our clients to take as big of leaps as they can in really key feature areas, and maybe a backsplash. Always a powder room is a great one because it's a great way to get a client to commit to something, but it's such a small space. So they usually just kind of say, you know what, let's do it. It's such a small space. It's not going to affect our life on a day-to-day basis. Let's make an impact for our guests when they come over. So, yeah.
I love a wacky powder room.
I love wacky powder rooms. I love being in a house and it just looks like, business all in the front, and you get in the powder room and there's a disco ball and like, what happens here?
Crazy wall coverings. I know. I love it.
Absolutely.
So given that there's limited access to people and inspiring spaces right now, what is really fueling your creativity?
In a weird way, I feel that in these last few weeks, I've really done a lot of self-contemplation. I feel like I've gone inward a lot. I think on a day-to-day basis, all of us, whether you're a consumer, a client, a designer, trade, we're constantly inundated by everything. I mean, obviously right now we're online quite a bit, so we're definitely getting those types of those yields of inspiration. But on a day-to-day basis, we're at suppliers, we're at our offices, we're meeting people, we're reading magazines, we're going to restaurants, we're seeing so much, we're going shopping to retail stores. So not having all that that visual excuse my language, but that visual vomit maybe is the best way to put it. It kind of allows for a more subtle and clean mind, and that's kind of what I've taken the opportunity in these last few weeks to do, is kind of allow that respite to reevaluate myself as a designer and the projects and clients we're working with still today, and again, just reaffirming either methods and practices that we've already been doing in our business, or perhaps new ones and things that I haven't tried before that I've always wanted to try. So yeah, more of a self-reflective approach.
Yeah. One of the things that my husband and I have been doing since this all started is trying to stay positive, and to do that we've been kind of compiling lists of some of our small accomplishments we've made, whether that's cooking more adventurously, or I know everybody's making bread, but I've made some bread. So I
haven't tried that yet.
I'm like part of the bread trend, whatever.
Nice. Don't worry about trends.
So, just the new skills that we've been trying out, and that's kind of interesting, to keep a list of that. So are there any new accomplishments that you've had, whether, small or medium size, or any new skills that you've been trying to work on?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that from like a business standpoint, the skills in communication are like through the roof. We're trying to really improve those. Obviously, reconnecting with our team that's working remotely on a weekly basis, communicating again on a daily basis with our designers, with Phyllis, with our trades and our clients. So finding other ways and approaches that we can do that. Obviously, Zoom is one of them. Everyone's been using it, but also just being able to communicate design intent, not only through drawings, but through sketches, being able to take a photo and verbally communicate things more direct and clearly to our contractors and our trades still working on site, while still allowing our clients to trust our decision making throughout this process. So so communication has obviously been a huge factor when it comes to maintaining the success of our business through this time. From a personal standpoint, the exact opposite of what you mentioned earlier, and what I think people see as far as like fashion and being put together. I've allowed this time to just kind of let myself relax a little bit, like not worry about doing my hair, just going home and chilling out and not going to events and social elements. So because I'm just constantly inundated and so involved in those aspects of my day-to-day life before, prior to COVID. So like I mentioned before, my partner and I were doing hikes every weekend. We're trying, 2 or 3 different spots, one different every time, going for a few hours, getting in our 20,000 steps. And yeah, that's a really cool part. I've seen places of British Columbia I didn't even know existed that I had no initial desire to go to, but now during this time, I can't help but get out of the city during this time. So that's been a great aspect.
Yeah. Well, last time we spoke, you had mentioned that one of the more challenging projects you had taken on was your own house. And since you're spending so much time in your house now, are there elements that you're now wanting to change, or are you still in love with everything as you were the first time, when you completed it?
Actually, I don't know if you know, but a lot has happened since then. We actually sold our home last summer, and towards the end of last summer. Everything happened really, really quickly, and we ended up buying a loft in Gastown, and I actually just started that renovation. So when you ask me what I would change about my home, I'm currently changing everything about my home. So it's fully down to the bones. That's going on, and while that situation is happening, my partner and I are living at the Vancouver house, which has actually been a really cool experience. So I get to look at it. I'm looking at it right now through our office window. It's just across the bridge from us here in our office, and yeah, so I've been actually having fun decorating our temporary unit there.
Okay,
so,
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, what's the first thing that you want to do once we're finished with sheltering in place?
The first thing I want to do is pretty much hug everyone I love.
Yeah.
I think most people do. I think throughout the situation and these circumstances, I think there's going to be 2 major takeaways, at least for myself. I think number one, we're obviously going to value our health, so being more self-conscious of how we're treating our bodies and what we're doing, and just cleanliness and all, and having that. But I think on the opposite end of the spectrum, at least I know for myself, I'm going to value human interaction and touch way more than I did previous to the situation. So kind of taking those 2 approaches on the flip side of whenever that will be, I look forward to that. But yeah, definitely hugging, number one, first and foremost, my family members, my mom, and then my friends. Just seeing everyone.
Yeah, I know. I think when we first moved to Portland, I was like coming back we lived in Seattle, and constantly doing events. And I was like, I'm just going to chill here. And it kind of just kept going. Like the chill kept happening. And so now I'm like, okay, I can't wait to get back out and doing things with humans. So it'll be.
Totally. And it makes you appreciate those aspects too, right? Because when you're constantly, like you said, what you were doing in Seattle and going to events and marketing and networking and doing all of these aspects, you kind of get so deep into those things that it just becomes the new norm. And when we have nothing to go to or nowhere to go, you begin to immediately appreciate the opposites in life. So finding that balance will be the most important, I think, thing, I think, post-COVID.
I agree. So are there any charitable organizations or nonprofits that you are currently working with or supporting right now?
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely trying our hand. I mean, every year our goal is to obviously partner with non-for-profit organizations and fundraisers that will obviously bring back a lot of important things to our community. Last year, at the tail end of last year, Phyllis and I both got ourselves involved in 2 major great associations. One of them was Kids Help Phone Line, which is where we did Home for the Holidays. And then we also joined with Tyson for 40 for 40, which was an event that essentially raised $40,000 for 4 charitable organizations, which $10,000 was given to each one of these organizations. And for this year, one of the organizations that we're trying our hand with, obviously things are somewhat halted, but is the Vancouver Heritage Foundation. So, which kind of obviously nicely ties into design and architecture. So. You can look forward to seeing what might happen with that this year. Fingers crossed if things improve.
Yeah, amazing. So we are going to get into our lightning round questions right now, which are 5 questions that we ask every single person who joins us on the speaker series. And it is kind of like a rapid fire question answer. So, and again, after round, Phyllis is going to join us. So everybody who's on the live stream, stay tuned and hang in there, and we'll get Phyllis on the line. Okay, so number one.
I probably should have previewed the questions.
Oh, yeah.
So I may not be very fast.
Okay, so one, what is the one thing that you do to get out of a creative mind block?
Ooh. I usually shop.
Same. I think that's good.
I'll admit it.
Number two, and I think you've answered this before for me one other time, but what did you want to be at age 5?
A fashion designer.
I was going to say, I think that's what you told me last time.
Yeah.
Number 3, who is somebody that has shaped your life professionally?
Professionally, I mean, I have to, and this may sound really corny, but it has to be my mom, because she's the one that actually pushed me to go into interior design in the first place when I had major hesitation. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4, what are 3 objects on your desk at all times?
Stapler, coffee, and my phone.
Perfect. And then number 5, what's the best advice that you've ever received?
Oh, actually, I feel like I've answered this question before, and I'm having a mental.
I think you did. Yeah, I think you did.
And totally, and I'm having a mental block right now. But let me just think of something on the fly, I guess. Another piece of advice that I've received, because the other one's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it. But I think the best piece of advice was, don't be afraid to be you. And I've received that advice from people that are very important in my life several times throughout my life, and I try to stick to that.
Yeah, it's excellent advice, because there are a lot of people who are fearful of that, and they should just be themselves, you know?
Totally.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lauren.
It's amazing to see you again. And
nice to see you too.
So we're going to end our chat with Aleem, and then we are going to get Phyllis on the line, and she's going to answer our lightning questions. So
bye.
Bye.
Hi, Lisa. Hi.
How are you?
I think.
Good.
How are you?
Okay, they're having a little technical difficulties, but we got it back.
Okay, good. Well, that wasn't too bad to join in.
Not at all. Okay, so if you're just joining us, we have Phyllis Lui online. She's going to be answering fun questions. So we'll go ahead and get started. So number 1, what is the first thing you do to get out of a creative mind block?
Well, I saw Aleem's answer, and I think mine is pretty much similar to that. But like we go shopping, basically.
Yeah, totally together.
Sometimes, and although we get into trouble together.
Yeah.
I think joking aside, though, a lot of the times what I do is I just lay out what I need to do, usually for a design problem that we have, and just walk away and did it later. And you know, it's great to go back and look at it like a day later, 2 days later, because that tile that you loved the first time that you tried it, sometimes it just doesn't work when you go back to it. It looks like a totally different scheme.
Excellent advice. So number 2, what do you want to be at age 5?
Other than a princess?
Other than a princess.
Yeah, I think probably similar to Aleem. I think it was fashion designers, one of the ones that comes to mind. I had, you know, those little cutout paper dolls that you can cut out the little outfits, and then they had the little tabs, and you change their outfits by changing, like, you know, doing the different cutouts. And I think I also like colored them differently, tried to do little outfits for them. Like, I had so much fun with that.
Yeah. Do you remember fashion? They had those when you were little. I had those things. They were like little plates that you changed and did like rubbing on them for like fashion dolls.
Yeah.
So number 3, who is someone who has shaped your life professionally?
I think other than Aleem, I would say, well, the easy answer is my husband Shelby, because he's the one that pushed me to go to design school. I had to think about this one a little bit, and I would say like a few years ago, I worked for like a local developer, for quite a few years. And the developer, the president that ran the company, he was this really well-seasoned professional. And he had very, very eccentric. So I learned so much from him because, you know, I'd go up to him and go, okay, so basically you have two solutions here. There's an A or B. And he would be like, well, did you ever consider this warped C? And he always threw me off guard because there was no way that in my mind I ever thought this weird C was even a solution.
Right.
And so it really pushed me to like think beyond those kind of boundaries and really just, you know, try to think outside the box, basically.
Yeah, I love that. So what are 3 objects on your desk at all times?
I think probably coffee is one of them. And other than my phone, I would say like a pen of some sort and paper, Post-its. I'm really good at doing like chicken scratch notes, and like trying to find them later on is a little bit of a problem, but yeah, I'm really good at that.
Yeah, I tried to take digital notes before, and I'm like, oh, this is too hard, so I end up writing them, and my handwriting is horrible, so yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. Well,
And then go ahead, sorry.
I think in your head is the best spot for it sometimes.
Yeah. Number 5, what's the best advice that you've ever received?
I heard this quote from Walt Disney once, and it was keep moving forward. So, you know, like we tell this to the girls all the time. Like, don't be afraid to try something, anything, you know, something new. I always joke that an expert is somebody that's made every single mistake out there. And that's why they're an expert. Because as soon as you try something, even if it's wrong, even if you make a mistake, at least you've learned from it. And you go, okay, well, you know what, that's not going to work. And next time I'll try something else. But I think that's the best way to keep moving forward, or else you're always going to do the same thing and you're in a rut, basically.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Phyllis, for joining us for our lightning round. Hopefully it was fun.
That was fun.
Of course, of course. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining our live stream. It was really fun. Have a great weekend. This talk will be archived on our Instagram stories under live, and then also on our website. Next week on Monday, we are going to have our next talk with interior designer and star of the Netflix series Restaurants on the Edge with Karen Bone, House of Bone. So that will be on Monday at noon. So make sure you tune into that right here. Thank you so much.